And we're on part two.
Yep.
Okay, from a coaching point of view, Tony, tell us about, from your point of view, the highlights of the year. You know, any good wins we had besides the grand final, any bad losses or any highlights or lowlights for yourself?
Okay. Well, we started the year off pretty well. We went to Hamley first game. I've told the story before. I drove into the ground and the first thing I saw was Ned Kelly punching somebody, and he was playing in the twos, Ned. And he got suspended, so he missed a few of the early games. So we went to Hamley. We won by nearly 20 goals, which is a good start, but you never quite know where you're headed from there. We got on a little bit of a roll early. Everybody was up and about. Sharpie was on fire at full forward. Walshy was the new recruit who was going really well. We didn't have Scoffer for the first 3 games. Scoffer came back after 3 games. But we had Peter Adet, who was pretty useful. I think it was Peter's first year for us. He was pretty useful. Played that running role that sort of helped us overcome the early absence of Scoff. We had, I can refer to some stuff here.
Yep.
We won our first 6, which is a pretty good start. So the confidence was up a little bit. But then, while we had big wins against some sides, we won by 10 goals against some sides. And then we beat Hamley, got 19 goals, 6, and 7 weeks later, Hamley beat us. And then we beat Williston by 10 or 12 goals, and then they beat us by 8 or 9. And so we had a few of those turnarounds mid-year. So I'm not really sure what happened mid-year. We had a few players missing, a few injuries or absences for one reason or another. So we had that sort of mid-year bit. Then we lost, I think we lost Peter Adet when he got kicked against Virginia, leg broken, end of year. And then again, just a few weeks later, Nick McGreen had that car accident where he was pretty lucky to survive. I think he was driving a Mini and got hit by a semi.
That'll do it.
So there were those. The middle of the year was, the start of the year and the end of the year really good. The middle of the year was a bit of a problem. And the first thing you do as a coach, I don't know how it affected you, Fitzy, but the first thing I did. You wake up and the first thing you think of every morning is, what you've got to do and, how you're going to overcome this and how you're going to do this and how you go. So it really,
all consuming.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it does your head in. But then towards the end of the year, our form came good again. We had a bit more solidity in our personnel on the field and in the same positions. I guess we'd established how we were playing and where we were playing. And so we went towards the end of the year, and I think 18 or 19 of the 20 played each of the last 5 games. Now, and then Michael Lamont came in into the grand final, but he came back into a familiar role with familiar people around him.
Yep.
We beat. It was probably pretty reassuring to beat Gawler South for the 3rd time, or the second 2 out of 3 in the last game of the year, and then we played them in the second semi. Well, we went in pretty confident because we beat them reasonably comfortably in the second semi, went straight through, and then it was grand final day. So there were lots of people, and we had a bit of depth underneath too. We had people. We had Jimmy Weir wanted to play, Ian Chalmers wanted to play, Dirk Van Leeuwen played a game, Terry Marcoux came up and played a game, Bluey Jolly wanted to play, so you had some people pushing up.
Yep.
So when you've got people pushing up, you can probably deal with a few other people who are probably not all that easy to deal with through the year. There's pressure there. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I guess I remember Nick being a fairly solid half-forward flanker.
Yeah.
You had Nick, Wally and GT, I imagine, for most of the year, sitting across half-forward until Nick got injured, and Peter Redet, I recall him maybe playing on the wing more so than anything, but probably you said a few times through the middle. What would you have done if those guys are actually available grand final day?
Well, that's an interesting question, isn't it? Yeah.
It was probably a good thing for
Yes,
us.
it would have been a real dilemma, because if they were available, Peter was a running midfielder, and he'd run forward, he'd run back. I would have had to include Peter, and Nick was a highly talented opportunist. We'd already had two of those in the side. Like, the half forwards play that cameo role, don't they? Where they might play for 15 minutes, but the 15 minutes is really
quality.
really valuable.
Yeah.
And GT was an expert at that. Ned was pretty good at it too, and Nick played the same role as them. I don't know whether we could have put Nick in somewhere else. You'd like to have him in your side, but I would have thought we would have had Peter Rev in the side if he was available. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So who goes out? Well, that's always the other side of the equation. That's why we were always paid the big bucks to coach, weren't we?
Yes, weren't we? Thanks for that. A few of the players that you had through the year, obviously you had Rico, previous years best and fairest. He played most of the year centre-half back.
Yeah.
Lyndon Pryor, pretty much had the wing to himself most of the year. Petros on the other one, or in the middle. So we had that great balance, I thought.
We did. I think I always say to Scoffer that I think he lobbed at two worlds at exactly the right time for him, because the balance was so good. And I say to Scoffer, I say, we made you look good, but shit, you made us look a lot better, you know, because every time you're in trouble, the voice, tone, you know, and he was always there to receive. Whenever you were in trouble, he was always, and I used to think, how did he get there, you know? How did he do that? How did he create that space? And I think, oh, shit, I've got to learn how to do that, but I never did, you know, because he just had that uncanny knack to be everywhere. So yeah, no, we only had two talls, and we had two blokes who were 6 foot, Wally and Staz, and Rick might tell you he's 6 foot, but he was just under. But we had that outside run, which Peter Redette would have added to, and we had a fair bit of skill. Yeah.
Yeah, and you had like half back line, Rico and Pop. Pop was a fairly solid.
Pop was enigmatic as a footballer. I would say he was enigmatic because he was a bit of a contrast. He obviously could play, and he had probably the best call of anybody, because he'd and you'd look out there and you kick the ball to him, and you'd think, why the hell is he out there on his own? He's on the half back flank. Anyway,
He's ahead of his time.
Yeah, the zone. Kick the ball out to him, and the ball would slip through, and he'd pick the ball up off the ground. He'd still be 20 metres clear and put it on the plate like he had that kicking action, and find somebody downfield, and then come back to half back. And as I said, I used to think, why was he there? But it seemed to work. So you just there's a fair amount of trust involved. You just the ones who it can make it work. You let them do that.
Yeah, and you had Cheek starting off his career.
Yeah,
and when you see those photos, it's quite amazing how small he was.
It is. I've said this about both Cheek and Scoffer. If you ever wanted to pick two people out of your career of having the choice of being able to lead to their kick, you could do it for Cheeky and Scoffer, left or right leg, and they'd hit you
with confidence.
Yeah, 99 out of 100 they'd hit you. The two best players I ever played with in terms of delivery to where to make it comfortable for you. Yeah.
And you had Walshy, good tap ruckman, Dave, good tap ruckman. Walshy maybe a bit more of a clunker of a mark, take a few clunkers up forward.
Walshy was a bit surprising in terms of like, he's a big man, but his ability to get his hands on the ball and then to kick straight. He kicked 2 in the grand final. Dave kicked 2 in the grand final. They were. You don't get any shorter as you get into the game, do you? And the old saying. And they were just. They were important all through the year. They kicked goals for us at crucial times. I think Gamo went on to become a really good mark of the ball, and at tools. I can remember Vaughan Sims at times, under the veranda, it'd be Gamo. And if Gamo didn't get 3 votes that day, it was nobody else's nobody's fault, because Vaughan would just, every time Gamma would take a mark, it was, come on!
It's not hard to find a picture in the newspaper with Dave taking a mark.
Yes,
because
that's
there was a lot
right,
of
yeah.
them,
And he'd mark at the highest point, so, yeah.
Oh, that's good. Now let's just have a chat about the game.
Yep.
And what's your recollections of the game? You know,
It's hard,
as
isn't it?
we can tell from the player interviews we've already had that they're vastly different.
Yeah, those blokes have had a lot of head knocks, obviously, over the years, yeah.
But first quarter, you thought we went south.
Yeah, we must have gone well south or away from the top of the hill, to the Adelaide end. We must have gone to the Adelaide end, I think, because in the last quarter we were kicking the other way, obviously.
Yep.
So yeah, game started off, and I think they were on the board straight away. I think through the day they seemed to get the break on us in each of the quarters, and then we pegged them back. We had a pretty good first quarter. It was pretty hectic, and they probably tried to impose themselves a bit physically, but I thought that we beat them on the outside a bit, where they had that physical sort of stuff. Can't tell you a lot about particular incidents early in the game. It seemed it was hectic.
Yeah. And second quarter, probably more of the same.
Yeah, second quarter.
We're up at half time or down? We're down by a couple of points, I reckon.
Yeah, it was pretty close at half time. I think we had a pretty good third quarter. They seemed to be able to get breaks. It was a one umpire game back in those days too. They were able to get some breaks on us in the second quarter. As I said, they were. I know that Phil Smith and Sharpie were getting a bit annoyed at a couple of them being, running in off into the centre square. Phil Smith got reported that day, but he just lost his
shit.
Yeah, no, he just had enough, and it might have. I'm not sure.
Someone ran.
Yeah, Red was trying to rain to him all the time. Yeah, so Phil bloody whacked him, and it might have been Zinni. I don't know, or one of those blokes. So they were trying to play that physical game, and they were pretty well equipped for it, I think, because when you look around the ground, they probably had 7 or 8, maybe 9 blokes who were 6 foot plus and big fellas, and we didn't have a lot, so we had to rely on playing the game, and that's what we did. Yeah.
Half time.
Yeah.